You're listening to Tehachapi with Key Budge, Tori Costello, Greg Garrett, and Ashley Whitmore.
It's Tehachapi time. Key Budge today. Joining me, I've got two special guests from the Tehachapi Police Department. We've got Acting Lieutenant Jason Dunham. Welcome back, Jason.
Thank you for having me, Key.
You're an old pro now. This is like your third or fourth time on the show.
I'm not a pro.
It's nice to have you back.
Thank you.
And then our communications manager, Carrie Ann Ritchie. Carrie Ann, welcome to Tehachapi.
Thank you for having me.
It's the first time for you, so it's nice. Now, this is different because you supervise all of our dispatchers, these hardworking women that are taking care of getting information to our police officers. And you're used to having a headset on and dealing with 911 and training people how to. You've got a headset on today and you've got a microphone in front of you, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah, quite a bit different.
It's going to be okay, though. There's going to be no emergent calls today, so this is all relaxed. Let's talk about all things Tehachapi Police Department. And just so everyone knows, we want to cover a few things today. These are things that Jason and Carrie Ann felt were important to share with the community. So we're going to kind of give some highlights of things that have been going on recently. We're going to talk about Communications Week, our dispatchers, recruitment of open positions within our police department, both sworn and civilian, and also for volunteers. We're going to talk about Drug Take-Back Week, and then also, if you're a business owner, to update information. So we've got a lot of things to cover. So I'm excited that we've got all of these topics because these are all very important. But those that are listening go, oh, I need to listen to that. So that's why we just teased what we did. So let's kick things off. This week, as we're here mid-April, we just had Communication Week, or I didn't say that correctly. What's the correct term of what week we just acknowledged?
It's National Telecommunications Week.
Right. Which is our dispatchers, the vital part of the organization. So Carrie Ann, let's talk about it from that. You're in that position. You train, you supervise. What's it like to run our dispatch department for our police department?
It's a lot of different emotions, I think. It's very rewarding to see someone you just hired them, they're off the street, they don't have any experience, and you see them functioning in that capacity and they're doing well, and you're very happy to see that someone is able to learn that skill. It's a lot of skills, but they're doing it and they're doing it well. But most of all, I really love watching the senior dispatchers who have taken on that very difficult and pre-leadership role, basically to teach someone how to do this difficult job, and they put their heart and souls into it, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for them, more work than just being on the console, but they do it well, and I'm very proud to see them in that role.
What we're talking about, these are the people that answer the phone when you call 911. Your team answers the 911 calls. They answer the standard phone line as well. But you're dealing with someone in a crisis on the other end, and they're in an oh crap moment. Mm-hmm. I need help, and your team is the first line of communication for that person that's in need.
Yeah, exactly. Every call is someone having a problem. We don't get calls where people just call and say, hey, have a wonderful day. Thank you for your service, anything like that. But that's not what we're there to do. We're there to be a lifeline to the public, and they do it in stride. And most of the time they do it alone. So they're talking to dispatchers on the radio while also answering emergency and non-emergency calls. They do it all by themselves usually.
And Jason, from your perspective, you've got the uniform on. You're out in a black and white. Mm-hmm. What's it to have this dispatch team? What is it like for you and your team that's out on the street that is the recipients of the information that's coming in, through our dispatch team?
Well, our dispatchers, that's our lifeline. So any information that's coming in when somebody's calling with an emergency, be it a crash or be it a fire or be it, they're a victim of a crime, the information that we are essentially relying on is what they've vetted through the dispatch center. So for us, being, a small police department and a small communication center, we see each other every day. So we rely on each other heavily when we're going out to these calls, that the information we're getting is going to keep us safe. Oftentimes our dispatchers, they take on all of this information and all of these calls with little closure, whereas the officer gets to go to that call and, we get the closure, but oftentimes the dispatcher doesn't. So It's a very challenging job. There's no way that I could do that job. I listened to one of our dispatchers handle 11 calls for service for the D Street fire while communicating with fire, while communicating with officers who are evacuating people. And if you want to talk about multitasking to the highest level, it's dispatching.
So carry on with that. As Jason described, you're multitasking. You've got so much to do. So, I mean, I would think that you're taking in information and people are at a heightened response.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's probably extremely difficult to understand what they're saying because they've got so much emotion flowing and exiting, with their volume and how they describe whatever it is, or if they're scared or whatever, or angry, whatever it is. You guys are trying to, I'm going to guess you got to try and calm them down so you can get the information and it makes sense.
Absolutely. So in our profession, we call it controlling the call. It's training that they receive on how to control a call. And I don't know how to describe it. When they're taking a call for service, the immediate reaction is, your heart rate jumps right up, but you can't let that affect how you're going to handle that call. So the training is so vital. You revert back to your training in a situation of crisis, basically. So these girls are basically in a situation of crisis 12 hours a day. Maybe they're not taking those emergency calls 12 hours every day, but they're on alert 12 hours a day, 40 hours a week. And they have learned how to cope with that as part of the job. But yes, it's very challenging, but it's very rewarding at the same time.
Well, Jason mentioned something that as an officer and you're out there with a call, you kind of understand what the end result is. You kind of get a little closer. Have you ever noticed that where you're going, I wonder what happened on this call? I know they said everything was code 4, everything was fine. Mm-hmm. But do you ever kind of get that, think back and go, man, I really wonder, how did they end up coming to whatever the conclusion was?
Oh yeah, 100%. Every call, we are a semi-small agency, and so we have a lot of luxury that a lot of larger agencies don't have, which is communicating with our officers regularly when the call is over. So the comm center's in the police department. It's not too far from where the officers, have their desk stations, and so they can come in or we can even ask them, hey, can you come in and tell me what happened with that? Did the lady make it out okay, or did the man get the help he needed, or what really happened there? Because what we might get on the call, oftentimes we find out was not the case when the officers got there. So we love to communicate with the officers and ask them those questions. So so that we can better ourselves and say, oh, maybe I should have asked that instead of this, or but also just to get that closure, like Jason was saying, and just it builds camaraderie with the officers as well, because now you're communicating with each other and you're building that teamwork of, I handled the call, you handled the call, we handled the call together. Let's talk it out.
And I love what you said. You learn from what that experience was, and you get that feedback after the fact. It's kind of that debriefing. Mm-hmm. And then the officer gives you a little feedback, and then you go, oh, I never thought to ask that, or I should ask that next time, or that's critical, because it made me flash back to my time in LA County. In LA County, your call would initially go into the station, Palmdale Lancaster station, and then it goes to East LA. And that's where the main dispatch center is. And then it gets dispatched from that main center. So when you're talking on the radio, you're dealing with East LA and where they're handling 5 or 6 stations throughout the county of Los Angeles. So you're asking information. It's like, okay, I'm in this time warp because I need real-time data. And there's that little bit of a lag time where even though the stations and the dispatch centers in each of the stations can hear it, it still has to go to East LA so they can monitor everything.
Yes.
And it be frustrating where you're asking for a piece of, or help to come to a certain location, and East LA is asking for better location. Well, what we described in the local center, they knew exactly. And that was like, I don't have time to explain it to you in East LA to understand it. So there would be those moments of that kind of frustration. I'm kind of sensing that because everything is local, it's here in our office, that makes a difference.
Oh, absolutely. We don't have that lag time. So if we have an emergency in progress, that dispatcher is not going to hang up with that caller. They're going to talk to that caller until the officer is right there with them. And so they can give real-time information to the officer and also encourage or comfort the caller until officers get there. So there's no disconnect there.
And what we have, our cars are GPS tracked. So the dispatcher, if something's really, critical that's occurring and the caller's kind of frantic, our dispatch can say, hey, the car is a block away or 2 blocks away. And what's awesome, and I talked about this the last time, the dispatchers know this community. When they talk about Tehachapi and Green Street, they know exactly where that's at. When somebody calls and says, hey, we have a gentleman doing this, that, or the other here, they know where that's at. It's not somebody in East LA who has no idea where that's at. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So the local control is better. And if we have a critical call, our debrief capabilities are immediate. We don't have to wait 2 weeks to get everybody that worked this critical event together. We can do it immediately.
Okay. Now, Carrie Ann, I got to ask you, is there a call that stands out without names or description? Do you have a call, or what type of a call, where you go, oh my God, I'll remember that for the rest of my life?
Oh yeah, several. I couldn't pick just one. I've got many, many years on now, so I couldn't just pick one, but there are numerous ones where I would say domestic violence is a big one. A lot of reports of maybe a deceased family member or someone that they found, that those are pretty heartbreaking, because you're talking to a person that has just lost someone they love, and you can relate, everyone can relate to that. Like Jason was saying with the local control, all of our dispatchers are from here, from Tehachapi. And so it's nice that they have invested in Tehachapi, in the town, by working there and helping the citizens, answering those difficult calls.
Well, let's talk about that as a career choice. And we've got, a group, you said that are here from Tehachapi, that are a part of our team, that make up our team. But our team is looking to grow.
Yes, absolutely.
And so what is it that we are looking for when we put out and I guess we have an open market right now that we're actually looking to add dispatchers to our Tehachapi Police Department communications team?
Yes.
What are we looking for? What are some of the skills that people need to come in with, or where is there maybe more training or things that they can work on if they're thinking about applying?
Okay. So you don't need any experience. It's definitely a no experience entry-level type position at first, because we offer all the training. It's all on the job training. We have a great training program with now experienced dispatchers training these new dispatchers. And what we're looking for is someone that, like we already mentioned, has great multitasking skills, but also that's something that can be learned. If you don't think you're a good multitasker, we can, put you through the training and see. The training is very detailed. It's designed to help people succeed, not to fail them out. So it's working. We've got a couple of trainees on right now, actually. So, but the job, it's just, it's one of those jobs where you're always looking to hire more people, whether they, find another job somewhere else, or they, leave to stay home, especially during COVID. That was a difficult time. People wanted to stay home, but as first responders, we don't get that luxury. So now people are coming back, and they're kind of looking for careers, meaningful careers, to participate in the local community. So I think that was a positive thing that came out of that. Also, we're looking for professional individuals that are looking for a career, not a job, because that's what this is. It's a lifetime career. It's something that molds you and helps you grow. Someone that is looking for something like that, someone that's looking for something to better themselves. We're looking for someone that's looking to be a part of a team, to be a positive influence on everyone that's already there, someone that, wants to work hard, but also, we don't just work hard. We play as well. We're there for each other. We like to joke, and, the personality is very important, so that's what we're looking for, a positive, professional person. Team-minded
professional. It gives you the opportunity to kind of give back,
yes.
To help someone in need. And you might not be the hands-on, but you're the voice on. Mm-hmm. You're the ears and the voice for that person in help to get them the help they need.
Yep.
So if someone is interested in going, this might be a career opportunity for me, what's the age that is the youngest that someone can apply for? Are we 18 and over, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 18 and over. If you're interested or you don't really know what it's all about, we do offer sit-alongs within the comm center. So they can reach out to me, and we can set that up where they sit in dispatch for just a few hours. It's not a whole shift or anything, and they can see what it's all about, the different tasks that they do, they can hear them take a 911 call or 2 or 3 or however many that day. And it gives them an idea of exactly what the job is about.
Okay. And some of the other nice things about working here for the city of Tehachapi and the Tehachapi Police Department. So you've got a retirement plan, you got competitive pay, and then I think something about the shifts is very interesting with what our dispatch team works with. So describe the shift work.
Yeah, so shift work, if anyone doesn't know, that term indicates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So, you're expected to work all those days. There is a perk to it that our dispatchers enjoy, which is you work 3 days in a week for 12 hours a day, and then you have 4 days off. So it's like a little mini vacation before you come back and work 3 12s and an 8-hour shift.
So you still work 80 hours in 2 weeks.
Yes.
1 week is 36. The next week is 44.
Yes.
Okay.
And they really seem to like that better, especially for that 4 days off. You don't actually have to take time off to spend time with your family or plan a little camping trip for the weekend or anything like that. It gives them that.
There's a little bit of flexibility in
Yeah,
there,
exactly.
built-in flexibility. You can work around the schedule knowing that your schedule's out in advance and you can plan ahead.
Exactly, yeah.
And then you also have part-time positions available?
Right now, we're just looking for full-time. The part-time is there. It's just we don't tend to fill it. We have more of a need for full-time workers.
But open to it if someone says, hey, I can only give you part-time, you'd at least take a look.
Absolutely. It's also a good way for someone to say they want to work part-time to decide whether or not they want to go full-time. Most likely, if you get the part-time position, you become a full-timer very soon. So maybe you want the full-time, we don't have a full-time, but you're like, I'm just going to take this part-time to get my foot in that door and show them that I'm serious. They're going to learn the job in that part-time position. And so if someone leaves or someone gets moved, they're the very next one that we're looking at to get in that full-time position.
Very good. Jason, anything you want to add about what your thoughts are with the dispatch team?
Just be a good communicator, somebody that can talk to somebody, on the phone. That's probably one of the most important things because you're going to be answering that phone every day. Yeah, it doesn't stop ringing. Be open-minded and be willing to learn new things.
And if people want to apply, do we send them to the website?
Yes, so TehachapiPD.com. We have all of our job opportunities on there, and they can also reach out to Christy at City Hall.
Okay, great. So if you're interested, it's TehachapiPD.com, and then you'll find the job openings. Or if you go to the Live Up Tehachapi page, you can go to job opportunities, and it'll pop up. Or you can call our HR department, which is Christy here at Tehachapi City Hall. She oversees HR for all of the departments within the city. So we got you some options there.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Love that. So let's now, I want to move into something that's coming up this Saturday, April 22nd, Jason. And it's something that the Tehachapi Police Department has been a part of for many years.
Yes, so the Tehachapi Police Department, we participate in the National Drug Take Back. And that'll be this Saturday at the police department from 10 to 2. And that's any unwanted prescription. It doesn't matter if it's narcotic, non-narcotic, prescribed, non-prescribed. The only thing we do not accept is our SARPs. We encourage the community to bring that stuff, get it out of your home, and bring it over to the police department. We don't want it going down the toilet, being flushed, or end up in somebody's hands that shouldn't be. That'll be taking place this Saturday, the 22nd.
And that's one thing you mentioned, not flushing it. And the reason why we say that is because when we talk to our water operators, the way the wastewater is treated when it gets in, it's not treated for independent chemicals. So the chemicals aren't, broken down. They're still in there. So when this wastewater gets reintroduced back somewhere to seep back down and filter through,
Right.
Those chemicals haven't been treated. So
Right.
we want to dispose of them properly.
Correct.
Okay, and then when you mentioned we don't want them to end up in the hands of someone that they shouldn't. I guess like when we have those, and I looked because I talked to my wife about this and reminding her about April 22nd. We did have some old medications, and we're like, okay, we got to make sure we get rid of these properly. So we'll be bringing those in, but we don't want kids to get them. We don't
Sure.
want them to be stolen and then back out on the street. So there's lots of things that do happen with prescription medications that we don't think will ever happen.
We do. You could leave that stuff somewhere where somebody could get a hold of it, a teenager or a young child, and the results of that could be, it could be deadly. if a child gets a hold of the wrong thing or a teenager gets a hold of the wrong thing. So if you're not utilizing that medication any longer, we encourage you to get rid of it. Obviously, we are the most concerned about narcotic medication. There's a huge epidemic right now with opioid use and stuff like that. So if you're no longer using any of those types of pain medications, anything like that,
The oxycodone,
all of it,
yeah.
let's get it disposed of. That way it doesn't turn up at school or anywhere else it shouldn't be.
Right. So, and that's an easy drop off too. You guys do that at the counter, and that's whether they just come into the police department on Saturday and say, hey, I've got meds, and there's a box to just, and it's as quick as what I just said.
Yep.
You're in, you're out, and it's taken care of.
Yep.
And then you guys are the collection site for the entire region, and then it gets turned over?
So each agency is responsible for collecting, whatever they're going to collect, and then it all goes down to the DEA.
And the DEA properly disposes of it?
Yes.
Okay. That's excellent. So I know we've shared some information that came from the DEA on our social medias, and we'll keep doing that. But we do it twice a year. So every April, every October. I think they're 6 months apart.
Correct.
And so if you miss out on this one, we'll do it again in October. Yep. And it's just something to think, let's be smart about how we get rid of our old medications.
Yep.
Okay. Now, Carrie Ann, you mentioned something before we started recording that this week, so last week was our National Police Telecommunications Week, and this week is recognizing someone else.
Yeah, our volunteers.
And volunteers, and we think about the police department, our volunteers they're so valuable.
Yes.
And so let's talk a little bit about the volunteer program and how we're looking to add to it.
Yeah, so we're looking, currently we have, our numbers have kind of decreased. COVID was a big hit to that. We didn't want to expose people unnecessarily to COVID if we didn't have to. So that kind of halted our volunteer program, and we kind of lost some membership. But we're looking to, if anybody out there wants to come volunteer, the primarily function that you'll be doing is, like traffic control. You may have to take evidence or crime reports to the DA or down to the crime lab, stuff like that. If we have a large incident that we need help with, we may ask for stuff like that. So it's not a police officer position, but it's something to assist us when we need it.
I remember that was a huge thing if we had an event or planned event or an emergency event. Volunteers would come out and they would relieve an officer from a scene and say, okay, we've got this intersection. Mm-hmm. And your volunteers were in a uniform, a different kind of uniform,
yes.
Usually like a white shirt.
Yes.
And they had a marked vehicle that says volunteers. And then they take control, and that frees up that sworn officer to go handle something else. So
yes.
it's critical.
Very critical. It's a very critical, and it's a great opportunity for you to be a part of your community and be a part of the police department and maybe see a different side of this community. You can drive around. We often can utilize our volunteers for extra patrol when somebody's on vacation. How you and I talked before about vacation checks. So, if you're interested in, if this sounds like something that you'd be interested in, let us know at the police department. The applications are there. Obviously, we have to do a little background check on you and make sure that you don't have any convictions and you're not somebody who doesn't need to be there. But it's a great opportunity for you to come out and see what this community has to offer.
Very good. Carrie Ann, do you get an opportunity to work with the volunteers? You do some of the community outreach and events and some of the fun things, when we interact with the community. And I know you utilize the volunteers when you have those kind of programs.
Absolutely. We love having the volunteers at the special events. They know a lot about the community, so they're a great resource. Most of the volunteers we've had in the past have lived here a while, and so when we're at a special event, say National Night Out or Mountain Festival, they're there with us. They're, handing out pamphlets, educating people on the volunteer program, but also just on the city itself. They are a valuable resource, and I would say that if you're not looking to be in the field as a volunteer, we have plenty of things that we can have a volunteer help us with in the office as well. So it's very well-rounded, the opportunities that we can give volunteers. If they want to help in any way, we can have them in the office. We can have them out in the field. Love having them at special events.
I appreciate you saying that too, because I get these flashback moments. Whenever we get cop talk going, I start flashing back to my past life. And I remember working investigations, and I had two volunteers that were assigned to me. and they went through pawn slips, and then they had the burglary reports, and they would match up and try and find the stolen property
That's
for these
awesome.
victims. And I was able to utilize them because they liked little task things. They weren't they wanted to volunteer, but they didn't want to be out,
Sure.
out shaking hands and directing traffic. They wanted to do something that was more in their line of interest. And that to them, putting the puzzle together,
Yeah.
where they remember there was, a collection of coins that were taken in this burglary. And then they found this collection of coins, went to a pawn shop, and they're like, hey, detective, look what we've got. And they would help solve crimes. And, volunteers are, like you said, they're invaluable. Can't have enough and finding creative ways for them to work. So if they've got a skill set that maybe they're retired from something and they want to still keep that skill set alive, there's probably some place that you can put them to work.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. If you want to be part of something that's bigger than yourself in retirement and volunteer your time, we'd love to entertain you.
Okay. And then, so we've got the applications at the police department. Do we,
Yes.
I don't know this, I should know this. Do we have applications online for the volunteers, or is it only strictly at the counter?
Yeah, just at the counter right now.
Okay, so we ask you to go over to 220 C Street, right off of Curry, go to the police department counter and say, I'm interested in volunteering, and you'll get an application.
I'd be happy to email it too. So if you want to call in with your interest and say, hey, I can't make it to the lobby this week or whatever the reason may be, I'd be happy to email you a copy and you can fill it out, print it, fill it out.
Perfect. Okay, so if you're listening, you want to call 822-2222 and then ask for Carrie Ann, and then you can get that email to you. So even better, we're making life so much easier.
Yeah.
I want to talk about officers, and we talked about recruitment here for our dispatch team and enhancing that. We're also looking to enhance our police officer corps.
We are still actively looking for police laterals and police officer trainee. Like we discussed before, if you want an opportunity to come work in a community that is pro-law enforcement, waves with all their fingers, a great climate to work in, this is the place to come work.
Yes, not everyone may have caught that, waving at police officers with all of their fingers.
Yes.
I mean, that is telling. This is a very supportive community. This is someone who does appreciate to see the black and white roll down the street and go, that's my team right there.
Yep.
They're keeping me safe.
Yes, and always people waving.
Yeah.
People that are proud to see us out there patrolling and looking for the bad man.
And you also talked about, as an officer, you get the opportunity here to kind of follow through up on a case. So it's not just oh my gosh, I'm banging one call out, going to the next one, banging that out.
Yes.
Right now, I'm down 5 reports at the end of shift. I got to write all these. You get on that call and you've got that, whatever it is, car theft or burglary or who knows what it is, but you're able to do a little bit more work.
Yes. I just gave a commendation to one of our officers who, within his overtime shift, did a sexual assault investigation from start to finish, identifying the suspect, writing a search warrant for that suspect's GPS location, and then worked with Bakersfield Police Department to find out where that individual was because they had fled this area, and got that person in custody, got a confession, all within, he had to stay over a little bit, but all within a 16-hour shift. And so if you want to talk about closure, you get to communicate with the victim of that crime and take that all the way to custody, confession, and then ultimately testifying in court.
And you don't get that in large agencies. Large agency, you take the call, you hand it off, goes to the watch sergeant, they approve the report, and the next day, maybe it'll go to a night detective if the agency's big enough to have night detectives, or it gets assigned the next day or 2 days later, and then the investigation follows.
Yes.
When a crime is hot, when it just happened, that's the best time. And what's that TV show, 48 Hours? You get there is a lot of truth to that.
Yes.
That as time passes, things cool off. People have time to travel, move, forget. And it's about now.
Yes, and it's, if you want to talk about, like we've been talking about, been hounding, that closure aspect, the best thing for an investigator or an officer is to call the victim and say, this person's in custody and can't hurt anybody anymore. That's one of the best feelings that you have as an officer.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So if someone's listening there and they're thinking about, this might be a better agency for me to work at, it sounds like what I really want to do. or if maybe it's not a lateral and we're looking at someone potentially wanting to come on the department, what are some of the things that they can do? Carrie Ann mentioned the sit along for the potential dispatcher. Do we offer the same kind of opportunity for someone who wants to be a police officer?
We do. We offer a ride-along program. I mean, obviously, that's no convictions. You can't have any felony convictions and certain misdemeanor convictions. But if you would like to come ride with one of our officers and see what this community has to offer and what this job kind of entails, you can do that. We are actively trying to recruit new officers, even if they're a trainee, to put through a police academy. And if this is a career path you think you would be interested in, I would encourage physical fitness. A lot of people that go to the police academy struggle with physical fitness, and then that kind of tumbles down and they start academically suffering because they can't keep up with the physical. If you were to come out on a ride-along, I think that would answer a lot of questions about our community, how supportive it is, what a great environment it is to work in, some of the scenery that's around here. We were just at the range last week getting some footage for our recruitment video, and it's just the storm clouds are kind of coming in, and you've got the mountains and the hawks, and it's an amazing place to work.
It is beautiful, and it is the land of 4 seasons. There are truly 4 different seasons. It's not 6 or 8 months of summer and then 3 or 4 months of winter, maybe with a couple of weeks of spring and fall.
Right.
We get a true 3 months of each season here, which is beautiful.
Yes, and you're going to see. I've seen already some PCT hikers coming through. So
yeah,
we've already got them traveling through our community.
And if people are interested, where do we want to send them? Is it to the website also?
Yes. So TehachapiPD.com or TehachapiCityHall.com. You can complete the application there, and Sergeant Rupert is our recruitment sergeant.
Okay. And so if there's any questions, they can go ahead and ask for Sergeant Rupert?
Yes. If you go on our website, there's basically a list of all of our employees. You can find his extension and his email there. Okay.
We recently had a citywide staff meeting. It was so nice to see the police department so well represented at that staff meeting. As I know, sometimes it's tough because of the amount of calls for service or things that are going on, but it was such a strong representation. The rest of the departments here within the city were so happy to see, the men and women of the Tehachapi Police Department, in the room together. You kicked off the meeting, Jason, with a special commendation. Let's recap what this commendation was, because it's a part of the job that we do when we hold up our hand and take that oath. We know that there's always a potential that something could take place, and everyone involved just did such a tremendous job with this call for service.
Yes, so I gave a commendation to our officers and our dispatcher. They responded to the D Street fire call we've discussed publicly here. And they were there within 4 minutes. They were evacuating people in the residence to prevent any life loss there, and then surrounding residents. They did a tremendous job. I'm very proud of them, and I'm very humbled I had the opportunity to recognize their work in front of everybody in the city. I'm very proud that when I'm not at work, that's how they're carrying themselves.
And I think the community recognized that. And Carrie Ann, let's talk about the dispatch aspect of that night, because I know that you've gone back and listened to the tapes and how your dispatcher did, and you're very proud of the work she did.
Absolutely, very impressed. It's one of those times when you see the potential for something to be very difficult in this position. So she was taking all the 911 calls. So all the 911 calls related to this fire, she was answering while being alone and also communicating with the officers, dispatching them to the location as fast as she could, and then also fielding calls from CHP, fire, transferring the calls to fire so they can get further information about the fire. But she was receiving multiple 911 calls, and then also some non-emergent calls regarding the fire, and she did a really good job of communicating to those citizens, fire's on the way, help is on the way, officers are there, they're going to help you until fire gets there, you're not alone.
Great way to wrap that up. You're not alone. There's someone here, and we care, and we're getting our team out there. And then, Jason, the fact that you guys recognize the team, I mean, this is what we do, what I used to do, but what you do.
Yes.
And you're out there, and it's a call, so you roll to it.
Yes.
And you go do what you're trained to do.
Yes. And oftentimes, the fire guys are probably going to get upset at this, but more times than not, we are there before the fire department's there.
Always, yeah.
So, we're the ones that are first on scene trying to evacuate residences, make sure or ascertain if there's any other victims inside that need to be taken out. And I don't think, sometimes I wonder if the community realizes that or not, that we're the first ones there. It's not the fire department. It's typically always that way. So yes, it is just a call for service, but they worked exemplary. They responded, they evacuated, they did everything textbook, zero complaints. The community seen it when they were calling 911. They recognized that, it was taking fire a little longer, and they kept calling this dispatcher saying, why is it taking so long? What's going on? It felt good to be represented well there.
The team did a great job.
Great job.
And it was nice that they were recognized in front of the rest of their team, being the other city staff.
Yes.
And then the departments got to see and go, you're making us proud, because we all work for the city of Tehachapi, and we each have our own department. And we sometimes get lost in that. We kind of get separated because we've got 3 different campuses. We've got City Hall, or actually 2 different City Hall buildings. We've got a police department building and a public works building. So we don't see each other every day. And sometimes we'll go weeks without seeing someone on the team, but we're all a part of the same family and team.
Yes, everybody between Public Works, City Hall, the Annex, and the Police Department, everybody is working to make this place the best place that we can make it. I believe that. I'm in these meetings, and you hear Don Marsh talk and Jay. Everybody is trying to make this place the best place they can make it, and protecting this place and protecting it from some of these laws that are trying to dictate what we will and we will not do. So this city's on the up and up.
Yeah, and I think it's special.
Yes, it's very special.
Yeah, I've worked for 3 different government organizations, and I consider this one to be very special.
It is.
Proud to say that I work here.
It is. I had an opportunity, for those of listeners out there that don't know me, in my early part of my career, I got to go to narcotics. So I had the opportunity to see how the Taft Police Department worked, the Kern Probation Department, all these police departments. And I knew from seeing all these police departments, I'm not going anywhere. This is the best place to work. The city wants to take care of all their employees and make sure that we have everything we need to do the job.
Yeah, that is one of the nice things about working for a task force, being assigned there. You really to get exposed to what other agencies do and how they operate.
Yes.
And then when you come back and you go, the grass isn't necessarily greener on the other side.
No, it's not.
And the stress that you get from the community you work in. That's one of those things that you don't ever really think about, or maybe it's not one of the biggest because you chase the dollar.
Right.
But when you've got a community that waves at you with all their fingers, that says thank you, that appreciates you, it relieves stress, and that makes your quality of life personally a little bit nicer when you work for a place that appreciates you. So I think the community, the residents that are listening right now, we should thank them for their positive, response that we get citywide, but especially with our police department, because it does make the job a little bit easier when you're not dealing with that stress, that outside, you're doing the job right. And
Absolutely.
we're held to a standard. They appreciate it.
They do. In this community, they do. I mean, you can see what's going on nationally. You can see what's going on statewide. They're trying to do a lot of things to this career that I'm not happy with and I don't like. People aren't out there doing what they want you to believe. Officers are out there, and deputies and police officers, they're out there trying to make the community the best that they can make it. And Sacramento and everything else that's going on, it's just tying our hands behind our back and limiting our ability to do our job sometimes.
I'll tell you, thank you. I appreciate it for both of you. Thank you for what you do.
And I'd like to thank the community. I'm always waved at when I'm out buying something. Several times somebody's bought my meal. I really appreciate that. And I know our guys do too, and gals.
It is a nice that when people step up just to say that, just, hey, I want to take care of this officer in line. I got their meal.
Yes.
I know I've had that happen. I appreciate it. And I've done the same too. Just tried to make sure when I get that opportunity to say thank you.
It's much appreciated.
Yeah. Because you get sworn in, but you don't get sworn out when you retire. That's one of those things. You don't get unsworn. That oath you take stays with you the rest of your life. So I appreciate it from that standpoint when I look back. And I want to transition over something that we talked about, that it affects both ends here, our dispatch team and our field team. So, and this deals also at the city level, when people own businesses, things happen, and things usually happen after hours.
Yeah.
And then that kind of makes things difficult when we don't have good contact info. So, Carrie Ann, let me ask you, this is something that you mentioned and that you're able to update. And let's talk about what it is I've just kind of teased a little.
Okay, so we're talking about, it could be emergent or non-emergent. So something as simple as the officers are out at midnight checking door handles of businesses, because they do that, and they find a door that's unlocked. So maybe not necessarily foul play, but the officer found that unlocked door, leaving that business open to foul play. So now we want to contact somebody, a key holder, a manager, an owner, to call and say, hey, we need you to come and lock up this door so that your business isn't, tampered with or broken into, or, you're not just open for anything that could happen. So we need those phone numbers. We need those people's names. Oftentimes they'll update their business permit, which is great. But as any business, a manager will change, leave, come on, whatever the case may be. And we need that information. It could change monthly. It could change, once a year, whatever it may be. It's just, we need that information. So we don't always get that information. And so when we're calling at midnight to find someone to help us button up this business, we don't have that information.
We're looking for business owners to maintain the contact, 24-hour contact information with the police department.
Yes.
That what Carrie Ann mentioned, Jason, with the crime prevention aspect, where officers kind of do a little bit of a foot beat, check some business doors, and then all of a sudden they find out staff left in a rush, didn't lock the door, and here they are at 10 o'clock at night, and the business is basically unsecured.
Yes. So
now you need to button it up, and you also need to be able to do that quickly so you can get back on the beat.
Yes. And so sometimes it can be frustrating. Let's say you've got some reports to write or something's going on, and we can't find the person that can come secure the building. Oftentimes what happens is, employees leave, they don't secure the door, maybe the alarm's on, and then we've got an alarm issue all night that we're trying to get fixed. So we are encouraging businesses to contact dispatch and just make sure that information is accurate, that we have the right key holder, we have the right responsible party that's going to come if there's an emergency, say a pipe breaks or somebody breaks into the business. We want to be able to remedy that situation as fast as possible.
Okay. And then, Carrie Ann, if someone's listening in the business, go, gosh, I haven't updated the information, but I've got a new night manager, who do they contact?
Just contact the police department. So we encourage you to either email. You can email myself. We have a dispatch email that goes to all the dispatchers that they check regularly. And or you can come into the lobby and just say, hey, I'm the owner of ABC company, and I heard your podcast, and I want to update my information. And that's really all you have to do on your own time, whenever is convenient for you.
And it makes your business safer.
Yes.
So I'm gonna put it on you, Jason, right now. We're inviting you back out to the EDC meeting the first Wednesday of the month, 7:30, and then the chamber luncheon in May. And my challenge to you is to bring this up, because that's where we'll see a ton of business owners, and we'll remind them, hey, this is something that we want you to do. It'll help out our dispatch team. It'll help out our patrol officers. Because I'm going to forget in about 30 seconds. As soon as we're past this part, that's just where my memory's going.
Pressure.
Yeah. So when we go back out, if you can, when we hit those businesses, that'll be a great, hey, when you introduce yourself in that little networking roundtable, it's a quick 2 minutes of information to share.
Awesome. I'll do it.
All right. So we covered a lot of topics that we said we were going to cover. Is there anything else that we want to put out right now, or we want to save it for the next podcast?
I would just put out, with the time change and people being out more and coming through our community more, let's just stay cognizant of our surroundings. Let's make sure our doors are locked. Let's not leave things unlocked. Let's not leave purses and things where people can get to them. We have a tremendous amount of people that travel through our community, and we have a tremendous amount of people that come shop at our Walmart. Even if they live in Rosamond and Lancaster's closer, they'll come up here because they may want to stop at the barbecue place or TK's or something. So let's just be cognizant with all the traffic that comes through this community, that we're not making ourselves vulnerable for theft and crime of opportunity.
Perfect. Carrie Ann, anything in closing?
No, I can't think of anything.
We want to recruit potential dispatchers, potential officers, laterals, or even people aspiring to be a police officer.
Yes.
We've got the training available. So, Carrie Ann, you and your team, you'll make sure that the applicants, if the successful applicants, you're going to get the training they need. So you don't have to have the experience. we're going to provide that training.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's TehachapiPD.com, or you can go to liveuptehachapi.com and go over to the police department or look for the jobs menu. We've got openings. We'd love to have new people on board. This is a great place to work. I just appreciate the fact that you guys took the time. This was one of those things when, Jason and I talk about it, we get a chance to talk each week, and we've been talking about doing the podcast on a more regular basis, and now we're following through with that.
Yes.
And sharing different pieces of information. And then this morning you said, can I bring Carrie Ann along? I said, absolutely. Let's highlight our dispatch team.
Yes. I want to, oftentimes they just go unrecognized. Nobody recognizes that phone, no matter how often you call, they're answering. And so I want to make sure not only are we recognizing them for last week, but we continue to recognize them.
Very good. All right. Carrie Ann, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Jason, again, thank you.
Thanks, Key. I appreciate it.
You're going to become a co-host, I bet. We're going to get you in here so often. You're going to be a co-host of the show. All right, folks, if you have a question, whether it's for Acting Lieutenant Jason Dunham or our lead dispatch communications manager, Carrie Ann Ritchie, you can send them through me, and I'll forward them. That makes it easy. media@TehachapiCityHall.com. If you have a question for them or a topic that you'd like us to talk about, send it to media@TehachapiCityHall.com. We'll get to it as quickly as we can. We appreciate the time you spend with us, and we'll catch you again soon right here on Tehachapod.
Tehachapod is a conversation about Tehachapi, featuring the community members who make this such a special place to call home. If you have a question or a thought you'd like to share, email media@TehachapiCityHall.com. Thank you to Gary Mazzola for sharing his song, This is Tehachapi.